Hello, you multi-mino massive malternators, and thank you to John Bridson for that malt mention. Welcome to the Bothy, welcome to Quality Spirits Review. Well, it's usually whiskey, and it's whiskey this time. Welcome to Ralphie Review 960. Right, good. That's us off to a start. And we will continue with pouring some single malt Scotch whisky from a bottle I have reviewed not that long ago. In fact, I last reviewed this particular single malt in Ralphie Review, yeah, that was the one, 858, back in January 2021. But this is January 2023, so it's about 2 years ago. But how time flies, seems like yesterday. And I thoroughly enjoyed it in my previous review, and even the review before that, because this is a whisky that I come back to quite often because it's really good value, it's really good quality, and furthermore, if you're not far into your whisky journey, it's very easy to get your palate around. It's Arran 10-year-old, bottled at 46% and unchill filtered, and it states it loud and clear on the label where it really matters. You've also got some braille on the label, which is quite unusual for a whisky bottle label, and for those who are partially sighted, it lets you know by touch what it is, so you don't mix it up with any other bottle of whisky. Now, I've reviewed this back in August 2020 in Ralphie Review 839. So that's 2 previous reviews in the last 3 years, right? Which is unusual. I don't normally go back to a whisky so frequently, but I am in this case for a very simple reason, and that is that Arran 10-year-old single malt whisky won the accolade of the winner by popular vote of the best entry-level single malt Scotch whisky 2022 in the Online Scotch Whisky Awards. That's oswa.co.uk, and you'll find a link down in the description box below. And it's because it's won in the category of best value single malt that I'm reviewing it, because for the first time with the OSWAs, of which I am involved as a co-host, what I'm doing is actually going through the winners and reviewing them for you. Now, they've been voted on by anybody who wants to vote, so the global consortium of whisky enthusiasts, and it's part of a nominated list by onliners and other people who are affiliated to onliners who have a lot of experience around whisky and who have a lot of conversation around whisky. So the actual nominations list is really very good as a point of reference should you be looking to narrow down what whiskies to buy that are good quality. Now, the nominations for the best value single malt were for 2022 Bunnahabhain 12, Glencadam 10-year-old, Kilkerran 12-year-old, Lechaik 10-year-old, and Loch Lomond 12-year-old. So, my brief passing opinion before I start to review this on the other nominations is that Bunnahabhain 12 is an excellent whisky as long as you get a good version. So if you've got a disappointing batch, inform the shop who sold you it. Because unfortunately with Bunnahabhain, there is a legacy there which really seriously needs to be addressed, of batch variations. I have to say, my experience recently in this is that there's more consistency. However, it doesn't bode well for any distiller to have a good run of batches of the single malt whisky and then put out a bad one and hope that nobody will notice. The fact is, distillers, I'm talking to you now, People do notice more than ever before, and people talk about it more than ever before, and it's hurting your sales. Okay. Glencadam, an absolute modern classic. Very good value, along with the Bunnahabhain 12-year-old, particularly in the UK and in Europe. Good value, excellent experience for the money you pay, as is Kilkerran 12-year-old if you can find it, because like Springbank, it's becoming more and more hard to get. Lechake 10, we're now in the peated zone here. Lechake 10 is a brilliant single malt whisky. It's been my previous whisky of the year. And then finally Loch Lomond 12, which is one, frankly, I don't really know much about, because I don't tend to buy a lot of Loch Lomonds, but I am aware that there's a major overhaul happening at that distillery, and they're definitely upping the calibre of their presentation. But let's go back to Arran 12-year-old, 10-year-old. That was a blooper. It's 10-year-old. Integrity presented single malt whisky, completely unpeated. It's a light whisky, fresh fruity flavours, some nice butterscotch and cereal notes coming from the malted barley. And it's very consistent. I have never yet heard of anybody claiming that they had a bad batch of Arran 10-year-old. If you've heard different, let me know, but it's certainly not my experience. On the nose, white fruit, slight peachiness, banana notes, some pineapple notes, soft apple notes and a little bit of pear. Creamy, honey, vanilla. Although Arran is an island whisky coming from the Isle of Arran, the style of it is very much the lowland style, so it sort of ties in with the geographical area, which is part of the lowlands region designation. So you find it's quite a lowland style of whisky, light, very accessible, and with some lovely complexity at a relatively young age. First taste, great, accessible, friendly, sweet and sour arrival. Honeycomb, soft toffee, butterscotch, definitely, some vanilla and lime juice. So you get this kind of citrus, a slight complex citrus note going on. I'm going to add a wee drop of water to this because there's no doubt about it. You could easily drink this neat and never add a drop of water. But even a few drops, and you don't have to add much, it's really going to open it up. It's going to expand the experience for you. And when you do that, you actually introduce a whole new level of complexity, particularly as you're sipping that whisky slowly over the next hour or two. Because you'll notice as part of the journey of smell and taste that the whisky will slightly change direction and the flavours will adjust over a period of time. And you have that happen in Isle of Arran so long as you don't over dilute it. We nice gentle roly-poly stroly. No shaky shakies here in the bothy. The nose is becoming softer, sweeter, a little bit more confectionery, but nicely balanced. It's not excessively sweet. It's not sucrose sweet. It's a fructose sweet, and very pleasantly so. It never becomes cloying. A real sparkling, almost effervescent sweet and sour. Getting a touch of apple fritters, lemon juice, pineapple juice, definitely. In fact, pineapple essence, the sort of pineapple that you would get in old-fashioned British confectionery, like a certain hard sweet called the Jargonelle pears or pear drops. so you get that note about it. The development is fairly robust, it's not particularly complex, and the finish is relatively light. But hey, we're talking about a 10-year-old single malt. The whole delivery has been amplified and given more dynamic by the bottling strength and the fact that it is unchill filtered. And as far as I'm concerned, that colour suggests no E150 has been added. And certainly you don't notice the signs of E150 in that damp teabag note in the finish, which is so objectionable. Here you have a clean, crisp, delightful, refreshing and very easily accessed single malt, so that whether you're years and years down the line of your journey or whether you're only just maybe a year in, you're going to be well rewarded at both, no matter what your level of experience, because it's just a wonderfully accessible single malt and also wonderfully affordable, particularly for the strength. One more taste before my malt mark. Excuse me. Don't want to rush this. It can't be a hugely high mark because it's not a particularly complex whisky. But as far as I'm concerned, this is a very worthy winner in some pretty tight competition. If you're just starting a whisky journey and you've had your Glenfiddich and you've had your Glenlivet, for example, this is an excellent whisky to move on to. For the very simple reason, it's naturally integrity presented, so you're just going to get more of an experience, and not only that, you'll really notice it and you won't be confused by it as you would if, say, for example, it had been a Mortlach or even a Springbank. There's a lovely, once it settles down in the development, you get a lovely sort of slight icing sugar, slight cologne note, which is the signature really of an 10-year-old. Lovely, lovely whisky. What am I going to give it? I've always been giving it high marks, but I don't want to kind of overdo it. So, a great whisky, 86 out of 100. Is that a respectable mark? I think so. It's a malt mark. And the mark is given because it isn't a fabulously complex whisky, but it's honest, transparent, and it delivers integrity, and that's highly commendable. And when you come back to my next review, review 960 Extras, I shall be talking about how we learn our own palate and what length of time it takes to understand and have confidence in our own experience rather than relying on what others tell us or suggest to us that we should be experiencing in a single malt. So I hope you'll join me for that. In the meantime, if you haven't subscribed, hey, it's January, it's a new year. I'm starting an exciting 9-week review series on the winners of the Online Scotch Whisky Awards, which I'm going to review them all, or if there's not a specific whisky, I will review a good representation of the winner, say the independent bottler, or whatever. And so join me for that. And if you subscribe, you'll get a notification, hopefully. Leave a comment, click like, and if you join me again shortly, I will be presenting to you from the Bothy Ralphie Review 960 Extras. We'll see you soon. This is the Clivey clicker. It means one thing. It means I'm about to stop recording. If it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I think it probably will. We'll see you soon.